Kilimanjaro tribe. The science of honoring the ancestors. In America, most people believe that African American history begins with slavery and that African spirituality is barbaric or unsubstantiated. To believe that African American history begins with slavery is a false, self-defeating, and demoralizing reality. The more factual reality is that most African Americans are descendants of African royalty and genius via the science and lineage of Cush and Kemet, which is better known as Egypt. Many African Americans today reject their African heritage and spirituality because of only being indoctrinated in Western philosophy, misinterpretation, or false propaganda. While colonialism and major interruptions in African history and culture have diluted and confused African spirituality, modern science is validating the brilliance of African spirituality today. Because I have taken the time to learn the science of ancient Egypt, properly named Kemet, I can appreciate looking at African spirituality from a scientific perspective rather than the confused misinterpretations of Western propaganda. More specifically, the more scientific understanding of the need to honor the ancestors. With the scientific understanding that our DNA is not ours, but are an accumulation of thousands of strands of DNA bred together over and over for thousands of years for the purpose of reproducing itself. DNA does this by creating evolved templates that can continue the reproduction and evolution process. The end result of this divine process is manifesting itself to become you, the ultimate template of all accumulated DNA. Modern science confirms that your entire physical being is the result of the accumulated DNA of every person in your lineage, who are your ancestors. From an ancient indigenous African scientific perspective, neuroplasticity can be viewed as aligning or rewiring your brain to be negatively or positively in tune with the spirit world, which we can interpret as thoughts, dreams, visions, or imagination. These sixth senses can either manifest a hellish or heavenly spirit world within your being. Maintaining an Afrocentric perspective, we can also see how epigenetics explains how we can invoke the ancestors, which are our DNA. How our minds are wired will determine how the ancestors, your DNA, will respond via epigenetics. The ancestors will either activate or deactivate dormant healthy or negative DNA. If you are wired to a negative spirit world, hell, or a negative mindset, the ancestors, your DNA, will respond in kind. The ancestors, your DNA, rejects negativity such as hate and worry and will protest by suppressing healthy DNA to manifest unhealthy DNA that invokes illnesses such as ulcers, headaches, high blood pressure, nausea, and self-defeating manifestations in the physical world or even death. Living a life with intent, purpose, focus, and expectation will make the difference in which spirit world you are functioning in. These pillars of manifesting primes your mind and opens an internal mental and spiritual portal or doorway to manifest the divine mindset of heaven and not hell. These habitual priming safeguards ensure that your heavenly thought process in the spirit world, which is your mind, will transition into reality and manifest itself in the physical world. One could even argue that the ancestors, your DNA, response to negative behavior is a built-in failsafe to ensure that only the properly aligned people, or DNA, will have the highest chances to reproduce and evolve by operating in the heavenly spirit world to create a healthy reality in the physical world. When wired to a positive spirit world, heaven, or a positive mindset that embraces high vibrating energy such as love and happiness, your DNA responds by suppressing negative DNA to manifest health, healing, and divine physical and mental manifesting abilities that transfer into the physical world. Through a series of sessions, I take people on a journey of self-discovery by tapping into and rewiring the conscious and subconscious mind. Over time, individuals develop the habit of priming their minds to invoke their ancestors to awaken healthy DNA that manifests a healthy mind and body, which in turn aligns their DNA to a divine state to realize their full potential, allowing them to master their manifesting abilities at every level. Scientific terms: neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change its structure and how it functions based on our life experiences, our repeated behaviors, our emotions, and our thoughts that create our reality. We become our habits. Our brain's functionality and DNA shapes themselves to ensure our daily routine. Epigenetics is the cells in your body's ability to change to either negatively or correctly function according to the condition inside of your body. Epigenetics is like the software on top of your genes that tell your genes what to do. Your genes will be the hardware performing the instructions given. This process allows your internal environment to cause genes in your body to become dormant or active, resulting in negative or productive changes in your DNA, body shape, and your health. These defective or perfected genetic traits can also be passed on. Understanding how your environment shapes your mind and your body is crucial also. Your environment determines what we learn, how we learn it, and the rules for how we live and treat each other. These rules are passed down from one generation to the next and often adapted to times and places. The rules shapes the minds of children as they develop into adults, whether through word of mouth or by gradual or unconscious assimilation. Kilimanjaro Tribe.